Two beautiful women sat on the restaurant's terrace, effortlessly drawing attention from passing men. But they were too absorbed in their conversation to notice. "How long has it been?" Samantha asked, turning to her tall, dark-haired friend. "Feels like forever since we last met." The younger blonde sighed. "I know, Samantha. Grad school and family stuff have kept me swamped. Hardly had time for anything. How's business school? Almost done with that MBA?" "Yeah, almost there. Spring break's next week, then just a few more weeks till graduation. Thesis is done, no exams to stress over. Smooth sailing from here." "Nice. Got a job lined up?" "Nope. Thinking of taking a breather before jumping into the grind. But enough about me. Anyone special in your life?" The blonde gave a small shrug. "Still searching for Mr. Right." She gave Samantha an assessing look. "With your looks, you could have a date every night if you wanted." Samantha smirked. "Trust me, the single life isn't as fun as it sounds. Sifting through losers just to find one decent guy? Exhausting. I envy you. Married to a great guy like Ethan." At the mention of her husband, the blonde's smile wavered. "He's all right, I guess." Samantha raised an eyebrow. That didn't sound convincing. Trouble in paradise? Not really trouble. He's just buried in work, and when we do have time together, money's tight. Well, he's grinding to build a future for you both. And let's be real, grad school isn't cheap. "I know, and I appreciate it," she said, though her tone lacked enthusiasm. "But sometimes, I miss the carefree fun of school. Everyone's out partying, and I'm stuck at home watching reruns." Samantha gave her a knowing look. "Anyone specific you wish you were partying with?" The blonde blushed. "You always see right through me." She leaned in. "Actually, there's this freshman, Brian. He's really sweet," she admitted. "And I know he's into me. Always tells me how amazing I look, how smart I am." Samantha's expression darkened slightly. "You know Ethan wouldn't love this." "It's just innocent flirting," she said quickly. "But yeah, Ethan wouldn't approve, which is why I haven't told him. Still, I miss the thrill of being single. Meeting new guys, the excitement. I miss it." Samantha's voice turned serious. "Be careful. Ethan's a good guy. Don't risk losing him." I know, she sighed. "I want a future with him, a family. I just wish I could have one last bit of fun before things get too serious." She hesitated, then leaned in again. "Brian asked me to go to Florida for spring break." Samantha blinked. "You're joking." "If I could guarantee Ethan wouldn't find out, I might actually consider it," she admitted, laughing it off. "But obviously, that's impossible." Samantha studied her for a moment before smirking. "Don't be so sure. I might have an idea." The blonde's eyes widened. "You're serious? You'd risk your marriage for a fling?" Samantha shrugged. "If I knew for sure Ethan wouldn't suspect? Maybe." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "And honestly, it's not that complicated." The blonde hesitated. "Okay, I have to hear this." Samantha tapped her nails against the table, speaking in a hushed tone. "First, you create a new Gmail account, something generic, like good friend. Then, you send Ethan an anonymous email, hinting that his wife might be seeing someone." The blonde's jaw dropped. "Are you insane? You want me to accuse myself of cheating?" "Not directly. The message won't say it's you. Just that there's someone. A mystery man Ethan doesn't know, can't track." "And what's the point?" "To plant suspicion," Samantha said smoothly. "When Ethan confronts you, he'll have no proof, just paranoia. That's when you flip the script. I don't want him doubting me." "You won't let him. When he accuses you, act outraged. Say you can't believe he doesn't trust you. Get so upset that you insist on needing space." She smirked. "Doesn't your mom live in Florida?" The blonde hesitated. "Yeah, why?" "So you tell Ethan, in a fit of anger, that you're leaving to clear your head. While he's stuck here, running in circles trying to uncover a lover who doesn't exist, you'll be in Florida, enjoying Brian." She bit her lip. "What do I tell my mom?" Samantha rolled her eyes. "Nothing. You don't even have to see her." "And if Ethan calls her?" "You make it clear before you leave. Tell him you need space. No calls, no checking in. If he does, make it clear it might be the last straw." The blonde sat back, considering. Slowly, a smile crept onto her lips. You know, this could actually work. Samantha grinned. Told you. And when you come back? Easy. How? By then, Ethan will be going crazy with guilt. Since he won't have found anything, he'll realize it was all in his head. He'll be desperate to make it up to you. You forgive him, everything goes back to normal, and you get your fun. The blonde laughed, shaking her head. Samantha, you are truly diabolical. Samantha raised her glass with a smirk. I prefer to think of it as creative problem-solving. You'll have your fun, and when you come back, you and Ethan will be closer than ever, Samantha assured with a sly grin. The blonde tapped her fingers against her glass. What about the guy I'm supposed to be seeing? Should I make up a name? You could, but it's better if there's a real name attached to it. Someone impossible for Ethan to track. Pick someone totally off-limits, like an old guy, someone far away, or even deceased. That way, if Ethan tries to dig, he won't find anything. A mischievous smile spread across her lips. I think I've got it. Back in my first year of grad school, there was this creepy professor, Alden. I haven't seen or heard about him in ages. It's like he just disappeared. Samantha's eyes lit up. That's perfect. If Ethan tries to verify anything, he'll hit a dead end. Reaching across the table, she gave her friend's hand a squeeze. You're a genius, Jerry. I'm actually getting excited now. I really think this is going to work. She hugged herself, her body trembling slightly, not from fear, but from anticipation. Her heart pounded at the thought of telling Brian. Meanwhile, Ethan sank into his worn swivel chair at the office, rubbing his forehead as stress gnawed at him. If those parts don't arrive soon, we'll miss the prototype deadline. He had been pulling 70-hour weeks, fighting to keep everything on track, yet the business always seemed one setback away from collapse. A knock at the door snapped him back to the present. The foreman entered, his expression tense. No updates yet. The supplier's giving us the runaround. Ethan let out a slow breath. If we don't get those parts by tomorrow, we're in serious trouble. After the foreman left, Ethan turned to his computer, checking his email in the hopes of some good news. His heart leapt when he saw a new message, but it wasn't from the supplier. His brow furrowed at the subject line. Thought you should know, friend. He almost ignored it, but something about the wording made him hesitate. Against his better judgment, he clicked it. I'm sorry to say, but Samantha's involved with Professor Alden. Thought you should know. Ethan stared at the screen, his mind blank for a moment. His first instinct was to scoff. Samantha wouldn't do this. She couldn't do this. It had to be some kind of joke. But the email was oddly specific. His fingers hovered over the delete button, but he hesitated. I can't ignore this. Even if it's fake, someone wants me to think it's true. Why? His jaw tightened as he fired back a response. Who are you? Why would you accuse my wife of this? What proof do you have? He hit send, knowing deep down that it was pointless. This person probably won't reply. If they do, they'll just be vague and cryptic. His mind raced. Professor Alden? The name didn't ring a bell. If Samantha was seeing someone, it had to be someone from the university. But why had this name been chosen? He quickly pulled up the university's website, searching through faculty listings. Nothing. Expanding his search to nearby schools yielded no results either. His frustration deepened. Did this so-called informant just invent a name? A Google search produced 2 people with the same surname. Both women, neither local. He exhaled sharply. This is a prank. Or someone trying to mess with me. And yet, he couldn't bring himself to delete the email. The moment it landed in his inbox, a seed of doubt had been planted. What if it's true? He tried to push the thought away. I've seen no signs. She hasn't acted differently. But then he frowned. Or have I been too busy to notice? For months, he'd been consumed with work. Late nights, early mornings, missed dinners, plans canceled at the last minute. She had complained. She wanted more date nights, more excitement. But he had always justified it. This is temporary. It's for our future, she'll understand. Now, looking at the email, all those moments came rushing back. Maybe she's lonely. Maybe I've been neglecting her. Maybe she resents it. But then a sharp pang of anger flared up in his chest. That still wouldn't justify cheating. They had discussed sacrifices for the business. She had agreed. She couldn't turn around and play the victim now. Another knock at the door. "Hey, Ethan, good news?" The parts just arrived. Relief flooded him. Finally. "Get them to the workshop ASAP." As the foreman left, Ethan exhaled. One crisis down. Now to figure out the other one. He picked up his phone and dialed the university's HR office. "I'm looking for a Professor Alden," he said. There was a pause. "Which department?" "Business school, I think." A few clicks of a keyboard. "No Alden listed in that department." "What about other departments?" "Hold, please." The wait stretched. When she finally returned, her tone was curt. "We have no record of a Professor Alden." A thought struck him. Maybe he left a year or two ago? "I can only confirm current faculty." "Why?" "University policy, sir." "Anything else?" His grip tightened around the phone. "No. Thanks." His next call was to the business school's dean. But that was another dead end. His head throbbed. "I need a drink." Instead, he grabbed his phone and called Ryan. "Hey, can we meet after work? I need some advice." "No, not over the phone." "Macy's at 6? Thanks." At Macy's, Ethan spotted Ryan at a quiet table with a beer already waiting for him. He sat down with a heavy sigh, rubbing his face. "Thanks for coming. And thanks for the drink." Ryan studied him. "All right, Ethan. Spill. Business trouble?" Ethan hesitated before sliding the printed email across the table. "I got this today." Ryan skimmed it, then read it again. He let out a long sigh. "Damn. No wonder you didn't want to talk over the phone. What do you think?" Ryan took a slow sip of wine. "Honestly, I don't know." Ethan's voice was tight. "I don't want to believe it's true, but I can't ignore it either. I spent the day trying to track down this Alden guy. Nothing. Either he doesn't exist, or someone's hiding something." Ryan set his glass down and met Ethan's eyes. "So what are you really asking me?" Ethan exhaled, rubbing his temples. "Do you think she's cheating?" Ryan leaned back, considering. "I can't say for sure, Ethan, but I can tell you what I do know." Ethan sat in silence, digesting Ryan's words. "On one hand, I haven't noticed any real signs of cheating," Ryan admitted. "But on the other hand, I haven't seen much of her lately either." Ethan exhaled sharply, frustration flickering in his eyes. "That doesn't mean anything. We've both been busy." "True," Ryan agreed. "But you know how some people thrive on stirring up drama. It could be a business rival, someone trying to distract you, or even someone with a personal grudge." Ethan frowned. "But I can't just ignore it and pretend it never happened." "Exactly. You value loyalty, especially in your marriage. If you let this doubt sit in your mind, it'll eat away at you, just like actual betrayal would. Either way, you lose." Ethan ran a hand over his face. "So what do I do? Hire a private investigator? Start checking her phone?" Ryan shook his head. "No. The simplest thing is also the smartest. Show her the email." Ethan hesitated. "You really think that's the best move? She deserves to know she's been accused of something this serious, and she should have the chance to explain. If someone accused you of cheating, wouldn't you want to know?" Ethan sighed, weighing his options. Finally, he nodded. "You're right. Hiding this will only push us apart." Ryan gave his arm a reassuring squeeze. "No matter what happens, you're not alone in this." Ethan exhaled, standing up. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Ryan. Just say the word if you need anything." Ethan nodded gratefully before heading home. When he arrived, Samantha was already there, pacing the living room. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "I tried calling, but you didn't answer." Instead of responding, Ethan took her hand and guided her to the couch. "Samantha, I need to show you something." She hesitated but sat down, watching warily as he pulled a printout from his pocket and handed it over. "I got this email today," he said. "I don't know what to make of it." Samantha's eyes scanned the message. Then, to his utter shock, she shot up, face flushed with fury. "Are you kidding me? You actually think I'm cheating on you?" Ethan blinked. "Samantha, I never said that. I just—" "You get one email from some anonymous nobody and suddenly I'm guilty?" she interrupted, voice rising. "No, I just thought we should talk. You should have thrown it away, she snapped. This is an insult, Ethan. A betrayal. She crumpled the paper and hurled it at him. You might as well have stabbed me in the heart. Ethan barely had time to react before she grabbed her bag and marched toward the door. Samantha, wait. I can't do this right now, she spat. I don't know when I'll be back. Then, she was gone, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. Ethan collapsed onto the couch, rubbing his face. I didn't accuse her. I just showed her the email. So why did she explode like that? The longer he sat there, the more frustration gave way to understanding. If she had shown me something like that, I'd have lost it too. Still, the email existed. The accusation existed. And now, things were even more complicated. He sat up, determined to wait up for her. But as the hours dragged on, exhaustion won, and he drifted into a restless sleep. Sometime past midnight, the door creaked open, jolting Ethan awake. Samantha stood in the doorway, arms folded tightly across her chest, her expression cold and unreadable. Samantha, we need to. I don't want to talk about this, she cut him off sharply. Samantha, please. You can sleep on the couch, she said. We'll talk in the morning. She turned and disappeared down the hall, slamming the bedroom door shut. Ethan sighed, rubbing his face. Sleep wouldn't come easy. Morning arrived, and Ethan sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee, waiting for Samantha. At nearly 8, she finally appeared, dragging a suitcase. His stomach sank. Where are you going? He asked carefully. I need space. Samantha, we should talk first. She raised a hand, silencing him. Spring break starts tomorrow. I'm going to Florida to visit my mom. I'll be back next Monday. Samantha, I need this, she insisted. And while I'm gone, I don't want to hear from you. No calls, no texts, and don't contact my mom. Got it? His jaw clenched. Samantha, I mean it, she snapped. If you try to reach me, I might not come back. Ethan swallowed hard, feeling utterly powerless. She grabbed her suitcase and walked out without another word. For minutes, he just sat there, staring at the space she left behind. Eventually, he forced himself to get ready for work. Upon arriving, he was met with good news. The missing parts had arrived, and production was back on track. The foreman had handled everything. At least the business won't crash today, Ethan muttered bitterly. Unlike my marriage. That afternoon, his phone rang. Hey, Ethan, it's Ryan. I was worried. How did it go with Samantha? Ethan exhaled. It's a long, sad story. That bad, huh? Ryan's voice softened. Want to meet for a drink? Ethan hesitated. Yeah, same place. Same place. Before leaving, Ethan checked his email again. Still nothing from good friend. But the damage was already done. At the bar, Ryan immediately noticed the dark circles under Ethan's eyes. He looked exhausted, worn down by the weight of his thoughts. You didn't sleep much last night, did you? Ryan asked, watching as Ethan took a long sip from his beer. Ethan sighed. Not really. I told Samantha about the letter, and she lost it. She stormed out, said she needed space, and now she's in Florida with her mom. Ryan's face fell, guilt flashing in his eyes. Oh, Ethan, I feel awful. You listened to me, and it backfired. Ethan shook his head. No, Ryan. I've thought about it a lot, and I still believe telling her was the right call. I didn't expect her to react so strongly, but I couldn't hide the letter and act like nothing happened. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I just hope she cools off so we can talk when she's back. You say that, but I still feel responsible, Ryan said, frowning. So what's your plan for the week? Ethan shrugged. Honestly, if she and I don't talk, I don't see how we move forward. I was thinking of waiting a few days, then calling her. No, Ryan said firmly. That's the worst thing you could do. She already feels like you don't trust her. If you call after she explicitly told you not to, you'll just prove her right. Ethan groaned. Yeah, I get it. But sitting here, doing nothing, feels useless. He hesitated. I still have no idea who sent that letter. Ryan leaned forward. What about that professor? Maybe if you can find Alden, you can figure out where this started. Ethan nodded. Yeah, if he actually exists, he might be able to fill in some gaps. Over the next few days, Ethan threw himself into solving the mystery. Despite hitting dead end after dead end, he was convinced Alden had ties to the university. Then an idea struck him. Maybe I can't find him because he's not a professor anymore. Maybe he was a student. Since he was also an alum, he decided to call the alumni office. Hi, I'm a former student, and I was wondering if you had any records on a Professor Alden. I think he might have attended the business school. The receptionist transferred him to the development department, where a woman took down his information. We don't have any records of a Alden graduating from here, she finally said. Could he have attended but never finished? Ethan asked, frustration creeping into his voice. Our database only tracks graduates. Ethan thanked her and hung up, irritation simmering. Great. Now I've guaranteed I'll be getting alumni donation requests for the next 5 years. The next day, Ethan went to the university himself. Spring break meant fewer people around, but he asked around anyway. Eventually, a staff member directed him to the assistant dean. You're looking for a Professor Alden? The assistant dean frowned. We don't have anyone by that name. I heard he might have taught here a few years ago. No records of that. The assistant dean's expression tightened. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, sir. Frustrated, Ethan walked out. I'm running out of leads. But just as he returned to his office, his phone rang. Hello? Ethan, this is Dr. Nathan Holloway from the business school faculty. I heard you were asking about Professor Alden. Ethan sat up. Yeah. Do you know him? Yes. He taught part-time here for a while, but his class was canceled due to low enrollment. He left before the semester ended. Ethan felt a flicker of hope. Do you know where he went? Actually, I do. At the start of this year, he told me he got a job at Black Hills State University in South Dakota. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Yes. And there's something else, Holloway continued. In the same message, he mentioned he recently got married, to a man named Harold. Ethan's mind reeled. Alden is married. To a man. So the letter was a lie. Thank you, Dr. Holloway, Ethan said, relief flooding him. I still don't know who sent me that email, but at least now I know Samantha had nothing to do with Alden. Can I ask why you were looking for him? Holloway asked curiously. Ethan hesitated, but then decided to be honest. I got an anonymous message accusing my wife of having an affair with him. There was a pause before Holloway spoke again, his tone softer. I understand. Years ago, my wife left me for someone else. I know how it feels to have your world shaken like that. I'm just glad in your case it was a false alarm. Ethan exhaled. Thank you, Dr. Holloway. I really appreciate what you did. That night, Ethan called Ryan. I still don't know who's trying to mess with my marriage, he admitted. But I do know it's not Alden. The guy's married and living in South Dakota. Are you sure you can trust this Holloway guy? Absolutely. I looked him up. He's well respected, been with the university for years. I also checked the Black Hills faculty website. Alden is listed there. That's good news, Ryan said. You must feel relieved. Yeah, I do. But now I don't know what to say to Samantha when she comes back. Ryan chuckled. It's simple, Ethan. She didn't even let you explain. So when she returns, tell her you never doubted her. Say you immediately looked into Alden, but because of her reaction, you couldn't tell her what you found. Ethan hesitated. That's not exactly how it happened. Ryan smirked. Come on, Ethan. Is it really so bad to bend the truth a little to get what you want? That Sunday, before heading home, Samantha called Ryan. Hey, I just wanted to check on Ethan before I come back. I'm nervous about what I'll find. Ryan smirked. You owe me big for helping you keep things together. With some luck and my advice, your marriage will be just fine. Samantha exhaled. Ethan figured out Alden was a lie. If I handle it right, he'll apologize, I'll apologize, and things will go back to normal. Silence hung on the line. Then, Samantha spoke again, her voice hesitant. What if I don't want things to go back to normal? Ryan frowned. What do you mean? Last week, I had an epiphany, Samantha admitted. Brian makes me laugh. He's exciting. And he's incredible in bed. I haven't felt this happy in years. Ryan's stomach dropped. Samantha, Keeping the affair going here in town is way riskier. Maybe. But let's be honest. Your little scheme worked perfectly. I bet you can figure out a way for me to keep seeing Brian. Ryan was silent for a long time. Then, finally, he spoke. I can come up with a plan to make this work. But you need to understand. You're putting your marriage at serious risk. Ethan's a good man. A loyal, dedicated husband. Guys like him don't come around every day. Samantha chuckled. Oh, Ryan. You had me at, I can come up with a plan. Okay, Ryan said, her voice low and serious. But don't say I didn't warn you. Now, here's what you need to do. Do you still have that email account you set up? Of course, Samantha replied. You told me to keep it active. Good. You're going to send another letter from your good friend account. Samantha frowned. To Ethan? No. This time, you send it to yourself, using your regular email. Samantha's confusion deepened. And what should it say? Ryan's voice carried a smirk. The same as before, just with a twist. This time, it'll claim Ethan is having an affair with me. What? Samantha nearly dropped the phone. That's ridiculous. Ethan knows that's not true. That's the point, Ryan explained smoothly. The first letter planted doubt about your fidelity. Ethan proved the Alden accusation was false, but he might still have lingering suspicions about you. This second letter destroys those doubts. Samantha hesitated. Didn't you say the first letter would buy me space with Brian? Exactly, Ryan confirmed. But once Ethan sees this new accusation, he'll know for certain that good friend is a liar. He'll dismiss both letters, believing someone's just trying to mess with your marriage. Which means, I can get away with anything for the rest of the semester. A slow smile spread across Samantha's lips. Jerry, you're a genius. There are 2 more things you need to do, Ryan added. First, make sure Ethan tells me about the second letter. Why? So I can reinforce your innocence. Ethan respects my opinion, and if I back you up, it'll cement his trust in you. Samantha chuckled. You're diabolical. Second, Ryan continued, always log out of your good friend account after sending the email. You don't want Ethan stumbling across it. Samantha rolled her eyes. I already warned Brian never to email me, but yeah, better safe than sorry. That evening, Ethan arrived home to find Samantha in tears. Samantha, he rushed to her. What's wrong? She sniffled, clutching a crumpled piece of paper. It happened again. Ethan snatched the letter from her shaking hands. His jaw clenched as he read it. Ethan is cheating with your friend, Ryan. I thought you should know. Damn it, he swore. You know this isn't true, right? Of course, Samantha said, her voice trembling. I know you would never cheat, just like I'd never cheat on you. And especially not with Ryan. She's been such a good friend to us both. Ethan exhaled, pacing. Someone's still trying to stir up trouble. And I still have no idea who or why. There must be a way to trace these emails, Samantha suggested carefully. I'll figure something out, Ethan muttered. Then, after a pause, do you think I should tell Ryan? Samantha bit her lip. I think you should. Like it or not, she's been dragged into this. It wouldn't be fair to keep her in the dark. The next morning, Ethan called Ryan. Well, how are the lovebirds today? She asked playfully. Ethan's tone was serious. Not great. There's something new I need to discuss with you. Can we meet? I'm working from home this afternoon, Ryan replied. Come by around 6:30? Yeah. See you then. That evening, when Ethan arrived at Ryan's apartment, she immediately noticed his tense expression. What's wrong? She asked, feigning concern. Ethan sighed and handed her the letter. I'm really sorry, Ryan, but it looks like you're now part of this mess. Ryan's eyes widened as she scanned the letter. Then, she scoffed. What? Ethan, this is insane. You know I would never do that to Samantha. She knows, Ethan assured her. She said the same thing. Ryan let out a relieved breath. Good. But this is just bizarre. First, someone accuses Samantha of cheating, and now this? Ethan clenched his jaw. I think someone is determined to cause trouble between us. Ryan furrowed her brow. A business rival, maybe? That's my only guess, Ethan admitted. But I have no idea who it could be. Ryan sighed. I'm glad you told me, Ethan. You're always so considerate. but I don't know what we can do. Unless this mystery person slips up, the police won't be able to help. I know, Ethan muttered. I just want this to stop. How's Samantha handling all this? She was in tears when I got home, Ethan admitted. Ryan frowned. I'm not surprised. This whole thing must be emotionally draining for her. On top of grad school and graduation coming up, she's probably at her breaking point. I just want to protect her, Ethan said, rubbing his temples. Ryan hesitated. Then maybe, don't tell her if another letter comes. Ethan's eyes narrowed. What? Hear me out, Ryan said quickly. If another letter arrives, you read it first. If it's more nonsense, just delete it before Samantha ever sees it. No need to stress her out. Ethan considered. That actually makes sense. Ryan nodded. You could even keep an eye on her email, just in case. Ethan sighed. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Ryan stood up, giving him a soft smile. Ethan, I hate that you're dealing with this, but you don't have to apologize for dragging me into it. You mean a lot to me. Ethan smiled back, warmth returning to his expression. Thank you, Ryan, for everything. Before he left, he hugged her and kissed her cheek. You're such a great friend. When Ethan got home, he was surprised to find Samantha in much better spirits. You seem happier, he remarked, watching as she hummed to herself while making tea. She turned to him with a radiant smile. I just realized how lucky I am to have you. Ethan's heart swelled. I'm lucky too. The following morning, she was even more cheerful, rising early to have breakfast with him, something she never did. As he sipped his coffee, Ethan smiled. It's a rare treat to see you before work. Samantha laughed lightly, resting her chin in her hands. I just wanted to start the day with my wonderful husband. Ethan felt relief wash over him. Maybe things really are going back to normal. Samantha leaned in, pressing a soft kiss against Ethan's lips. I just wanted to say, I love you before you left this morning. Ethan smiled, relishing the rare moment of affection. Oh, and by the way, she continued, her voice light, I'll be attending a lecture on campus this evening. A few girlfriends and I are grabbing a bite afterward, so I might be home late. Sure thing, Samantha, Ethan replied, sipping his coffee. There are plenty of leftovers in the fridge if I need something. Thanks, honey. She flashed him a sweet smile. If we miss each other, I'll probably stop by after class to drop off my things and change before heading out. Sounds good. Have a great evening. Ethan watched her leave, feeling comforted by their easy exchange. But as the day progressed, unease crept back into his mind. Since Samantha wouldn't be home, Ethan decided to work late. Business was looking up. A potential major client had shown interest in their new product samples. He should have been excited, but his mind was elsewhere. This all feels too perfect. Samantha's mood flipped overnight. She went from storming out to acting like the perfect wife. And then there was the issue of the mysterious good friend. As he entered the house, the silence was deafening. He placed his keys on the counter and noticed Samantha's laptop sitting on the dining table. She probably didn't need it for the lecture, he thought. Then, Ryan's suggestion resurfaced in his mind. Ethan hesitated, then sat down and opened the laptop. The email page wasn't open, but as he clicked on Gmail, a window popped up asking him to choose an account. His heart stopped. 2 email accounts were listed. One was Samantha's. The other? Good friend. Ethan's stomach turned to ice. He clicked on it, but the login screen demanded a password. He slammed the laptop shut, his breathing uneven. Samantha created the account. She sent those letters. She accused herself of cheating. But why? Then it hit him. She wanted me chasing a ghost while she ran off with someone else. And then another thought struck him like a punch to the gut. Florida. He snatched his phone off the table and quickly dialed his mother-in-law. Hey, Samantha and I were thinking of visiting next month. Would that be too soon? Ethan asked, forcing his voice to stay casual. Oh, not at all. It's been ages since I saw you both. I'd love that, she replied warmly. Ethan's grip tightened around his phone. So Samantha never visited her mother. He swallowed the bile rising in his throat. After he hung up, he cursed under his breath. She lied. She never went to Florida. So where the hell did she go? And who was she with? His mind spun, replaying every moment she had acted distant, every excuse she had given. Then, the last good friend email resurfaced in his mind. It was all part of her distraction tactics. She's not at some damn lecture right now. Ethan's hands balled into fists as he stormed into the bedroom. He flung open her dresser drawers, yanking clothes aside. He needed proof. Something was missing. Her garter belt. Ethan clenched his jaw. Samantha never wore that unless she was trying to impress someone. He rummaged further, checking her lingerie, but key pieces were gone. Out to dinner with the girls, huh? He slammed the drawer shut, his hands shaking. Fine. You want to play games, Samantha? Two can play. When Samantha returned after midnight, Ethan heard the door click shut. He lay still, pretending to be asleep. A few minutes later, he heard the shower running. Who knew lectures were so sweaty? He thought sarcastically, suppressing the urge to storm in and confront her. Instead, he let his anger simmer. The next morning, Ethan woke up before Samantha and left before she stirred. He scribbled a note and left it by the coffee pot. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. I had an early meeting at work and might be late today, so don't wait up. Samantha would never suspect a thing. Ethan spent the day setting his own plan in motion. At lunch, he ran errands, preparations. By the afternoon, he attended 2 meetings. Then, he made a few calls. Final steps. That evening, he didn't go home. Instead, he took himself to dinner and a movie. A new pattern. By the time he returned, Samantha was already asleep. Good. Tomorrow, he'd start shifting his schedule. The next morning, Samantha stirred awake to the smell of fresh coffee. Ethan sat across from her, watching as she blinked the sleep away. I thought you left for work already, she murmured, taking the coffee he handed her. I wanted to see you before I leave, Ethan replied casually. I have a flight to Detroit at noon. Her eyes widened slightly. Detroit? That's rare. New client. Ethan took a sip of coffee. I'll be gone a few days. When will you be back? Friday night. Maybe Saturday morning if things go well. He met her gaze. Can you manage while I'm gone? Samantha smiled. Of course. I'll keep busy. Ethan's lips curled. Good. Just stay away from our good friend while I'm gone. Her smile faltered. That's not funny, Ethan. He tilted his head. You're right. It's not. He grabbed his keys and headed out, but before he left, he turned back to glance at her one last time. She didn't even notice I didn't say I love you. She was already planning her next move. At lunchtime, Ethan made a detour. Instead of heading back to the office, he parked near the university. Dressed in jeans and a sweatshirt, a cheap backpack slung over his shoulder, he walked toward the graduate business school. No one paid him any mind as he entered the reading room. Behind the periodicals rack, he reached into his bag. Firecrackers. He lit the extra-long fuse and tossed them into a metal disposal bin. Then, he slipped out the nearest door, using his bag to keep it propped open. Once outside, he retrieved a burner phone and dialed campus security. His voice was shaky, frantic. Quick, get over here. There's gunfire at the business school. I think there might be multiple shooters. It's ongoing. As he hung up, he smirked. Now let's see how much fun you have at your lecture tonight, Samantha. The fireworks erupted. A rapid series of explosions shattered the evening calm, sending students into a frenzy. Ethan smirked as he hung up the burner phone, blending into the panicked crowd. Sirens blared in the distance, just as planned. He made his way to his car, driving off just as emergency vehicles flooded the campus. An hour later, from a quiet street near his home, Ethan watched as Samantha's car pulled into the driveway. But she wasn't alone. A second car parked behind hers. A male figure stepped out. Ethan chuckled darkly. In times of danger, there's no place like home. He drove off, checking in at a nearby motel, his mind racing. Let's see just how deep this betrayal runs. The next morning, Ethan stood leaning against Brian's car, waiting. The front door opened. Samantha stepped out, laughing, until she saw him. Her face drained of color. Oh God. Brian, that's my husband. Brian froze. Ethan's gaze locked onto her. I thought you were in Detroit, she stammered. Then she forced a smile. Dear, things aren't as they seem. Brian just stopped by. Ethan cut her off. Samantha, Every word out of your mouth is a lie. His voice was ice. I don't want to hear it anymore. She swallowed. Ethan, please. This wasn't some accidental slip-up. You've been seeing him for weeks. That letter you sent? Just a diversion, so you could sneak off with him for spring break. Samantha flinched. Oh, and by the way, your mom is wondering why you never visited. His voice was calm, cold. Guess you were too busy here. Brian tensed as Ethan lifted his phone and snapped several photos. Brian's fist clenched. He stepped forward. Ethan smirked. Easy. He raised a hand, making Brian hesitate. Let's not add assault to your list of accomplishments. Brian backed down, his jaw tight. Ethan turned back to Samantha. Grab whatever you need. I don't want to see you when I get back. Ethan. I meant it, Samantha. She collapsed onto the driveway, sobbing. Ethan walked to his car without another word. Before heading to work, Ethan dumped the burner phone and the realistic toy weapon he had carried, just in case. He smirked. Glad these things look so real. Back at his desk, he uploaded Brian's photos and emailed them. A phone call came almost instantly. This is Dr. Holloway. Did you just send me a photo? Yes. Do you recognize the man? There was a pause. Is the woman beside him your wife? My ex-wife, to be precise. Holloway exhaled. I see. Yes, I remember her from one of my classes. And the man? Brian Whitmore. He's one of my dissertation students. Ethan's jaw tightened. Finally, a name. Holloway chuckled. So, he's the serpent in your Garden of Eden? Ethan smirked. Something like that. But my Eve wasn't exactly innocent. Well, Holloway sighed. I'm sorry it's not the outcome you wanted, but I'm glad I could help. Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate it. Keep your spirits up, Holloway said. Things have a way of working out. Ethan hung up. One battle down. One more to go. 2 months later. Ethan sat across from his lawyer, irritation clear on his face. Any word from Samantha's attorney? His lawyer nodded. Yes. I spoke with Lillian Draper yesterday. She sent a counteroffer. Good news first. Samantha won't contest the divorce. Once she heard about the recordings you made, she decided not to risk court. Ethan smirked. Smart move. But the bad news, the lawyer continued. She wants financial compensation. Ethan's smirk vanished. Are you serious? His voice hardened. She cheats, gets caught, and now expects me to pay her? The lawyer slid a document across the table. She's asking for alimony. Ethan frowned. But we don't have much to divide. Exactly. You rent, no pension, minimal savings. Your only real asset is your business share, and it's running at a loss. Ethan scoffed. So, she's betting on me failing. Pretty much. How much is she asking for? The lawyer handed him the number. Ethan's jaw dropped. This is insane. He exhaled sharply. She knows I can't afford this. If I pay her what she's asking, I might as well just close up shop. She won't budge, the lawyer said. So we'll have to take this to Judge Sinclair. Ethan's expression darkened. I'm not handing her that much without a fight. Understood, the lawyer replied. Just remember, Sinclair holds all the power. You're at his mercy. 1 month later, court day. Ethan sat in the courtroom, hands clenched into fists. His lawyer leaned in. It's hard to tell which way the judge is leaning. He might suggest a compromise. Ethan nodded, his jaw tight. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Sinclair entered. Everyone stood, then sat as he studied both sides. I assume your positions remain unchanged, the judge asked. Both lawyers exchanged glances. Yes, Your Honor. Sinclair sighed. Very well. He adjusted his glasses. Before I make my ruling, I'd like to question Miss Caldwell. Ethan's lawyer raised an eyebrow. Samantha's attorney stiffened, whispering something to her. Ethan's lawyer murmured, This is interesting. It's usually not a good sign when the judge wants more from their side. Ethan smirked. Maybe, just maybe, karma was finally catching up with Samantha. Ethan watched sourly as Samantha took the stand, the judge's attention focused on her. He leaned toward his lawyer. I think we're in trouble. The judge set aside a few papers and looked at Samantha. Miss Caldwell, the main dispute here is alimony. Your proposed amount is significantly higher than what Mr. Caldwell is offering, correct? Yes, Your Honor. How do you justify your request? We're asking for more considering my years of marriage and the need to start fresh, Samantha replied smoothly. The judge glanced at Ethan's financial statements. Your husband's sole income is from his struggling business. Why do you believe he can afford your requested support? He's manipulating his finances, she said without hesitation. By investing heavily in his business, he's artificially deflating his income. Adjustments could easily cover the alimony I'm seeking. The judge's brow lifted. Are you accusing Mr. Caldwell of submitting fraudulent financial statements? Samantha paled. No, Your Honor. I just meant that income can be deferred and investments can be prioritized, all within accepted accounting practices. Ethan clenched his fists under the table. What a manipulative move, he muttered to his lawyer. She knows that's not true. Judge Sinclair nodded. Until now, we've focused on Mr. Caldwell's financial investments, but let's discuss another area of investment. You, Mrs. Caldwell? Samantha stiffened. Your husband paid for your MBA, correct? She hesitated, then answered carefully. Yes, Your Honor, but I worked diligently. I completed all coursework, exams, and my dissertation on my own. I've dedicated myself for the past 2 years, including summers. And you graduated recently? Yes, sir, she said proudly. With honors. The judge leaned back in his chair. That's all, Mrs. Caldwell. You may be seated. Returning to her lawyer, Samantha exhaled in relief. She even smiled. Then, the judge spoke again. After reviewing all evidence, I'm granting Mrs. Caldwell the full financial support requested. Ethan's stomach sank. Across the courtroom, Samantha's lawyer beamed while she hugged her in joy. But, the judge continued, this settlement provides for a comfortable standard of living, without employment, despite Mrs. Caldwell's completion of a degree that qualifies her for a high-paying career. Samantha's smile faltered. To incentivize her to use her education, I am limiting alimony to 6 months. Samantha's jaw dropped. Only 6 months? That's unfair, Your Honor. I can, and I have, the judge replied firmly. The gavel struck. Next case. Samantha's lawyer quickly ushered her away, though she was still sputtering protests. A bailiff stepped in, signaling that the discussion was over. Outside the courtroom, Ethan turned to his lawyer. Only 6 months? I can manage that. A great outcome, his lawyer agreed. I thought we were in trouble when the judge leaned in her favor, but he saw through her act. Not many husbands walk away this well in divorce court. You don't think her pleading no contest to the infidelity charges helped? It shouldn't have affected the financial ruling. Ethan glanced back at Samantha, who was still arguing with her lawyer. He chuckled. Whatever it was, I'll take it. A hand rested on his shoulder. Ethan turned to see an older man, vaguely familiar. I wanted to introduce myself, the gray-haired man said. I'm Professor Holloway. Ethan firmly shook his hand. Professor, a pleasure to finally meet you. Thank you for your help. Holloway smiled. After our last conversation, I grew curious about your case and decided to stop by. It also gave me a chance to catch up with an old friend. He chuckled. Judge Sinclair. Ethan's eyes widened slightly. Holloway gave his hand another shake. Glad things worked out for you. Us divorced men need to stick together. As Holloway walked away, Ethan muttered, interesting. Out of the corner of his eye, he thought he saw Ryan. But when he turned to look, she was gone. Later that evening, Ryan sat in a dimly lit apartment, phone in hand. After a long pause, she finally dialed a familiar number. When the line connected, she hesitated. Hello? Jerry, it's me. Samantha. There was a pause. Samantha, what a surprise. Haven't heard from you since you moved to Florida. To be honest, things have been tough. That's why I called. I needed someone to talk to. Sure. How are you? Are you working? Samantha sighed. That's part of the problem. I thought my MBA would guarantee me a job, but experience matters more. Most places only offered internships. That's rough. So where are you now? When alimony ran out, I was desperate. Tried admin work, hated it. Now I'm in financial advising. Ryan chuckled. That's quite a shift. That's actually why I called, Samantha continued quickly. I can analyze your finances if you're interested. Ryan cut her off with a short laugh. Oh, Samantha, I'd love to help you, but my finances are very stable. I don't need any advising. A pause. Samantha sighed. Yeah, I hear that a lot. I had to move back in with my mom just to save money. You're living with her? What about Brian? There was a long silence. Don't mention him, Samantha said bitterly. Ryan raised an eyebrow. You two broke up? It was awful. He dropped out of school, failed his thesis, refused to work, and turned nasty. I had to get the police involved. Yikes. I thought I wanted freedom, but going out isn't glamorous like I imagined. It's mostly creeps. Ryan smirked. That's funny. You were so excited to be single again. Samantha ignored the jab. What about you, Jerry? Anyone special? Ryan's voice turned sweet. Actually, yes. I'm getting married next month. Samantha's breath hitched. Married? That's great. Who's the lucky guy? You know him. Samantha felt her stomach drop. It's Ethan. Silence. My Ethan? Samantha finally whispered. Ryan grinned. My Ethan now? You can't do this, Samantha hissed. I already did. We're having a small ceremony at our new home, then heading to Paris for our honeymoon. Samantha gripped the phone. How can Ethan afford all that? Ryan's voice was sickeningly sweet. Oh, things changed. The month you left, Ethan's business took off. A manufacturer just bought it for a fortune. Samantha was speechless. Ryan's tone turned smug. You know, Samantha, all of this could have been yours if you hadn't thrown it away. Samantha's pulse pounded in her ears. You tricked me. You set me up. Ryan giggled. I simply gave you opportunities. You made your own choices. I'll tell Ethan what you did. Oh, sweetie, Ryan sighed. I have a date night with Ethan. After this call, I'm blocking your number. Samantha screamed in frustration as the line went dead. Meanwhile, Ryan greeted Ethan at the door with a kiss. Samantha sent me a letter, Ethan said casually. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Really? What did she want? She claims you orchestrated everything. Ryan smirked. Poor Samantha. She should have signed it, good friend. Ethan laughed until his sides hurt.